So I watched another Breaking Bad season. I watched about 8 hours of this in one day because we had a snow day at school, and I moved to a new apartment, as I'm sure you've noticed. And in that time period, all I had was like my TV, so I just watched Breaking Bad a lot. So yeah, we kind of blasted through this in like a week, so that's good. I'm hoping to keep that pace up. I need to rewatch The Boys at some point, but I'm planning on finishing Breaking Bad first. So, but today we're talking about Season 4, and if you guys have seen my other videos, you know there are spoilers in this, as well as, it's kind of more me recapping it, and then talking about individual plot lines throughout the show. I think that's my new way of talking about shows. Like, it's just better and more advantageous for everyone watching, because everyone's seen it, you know, at this point, and you're not here really to you know, you get what I'm saying. But today we're talking about Season 4. Season 4 is probably the most famous season of Breaking Bad, mainly because of Gustavo Fring, the main villain of kind of the second half of Season 3 and the entirety of Season 4. It is a big deal. He's kind of the main villain of Breaking Bad in general. And I've heard he comes on in Better Call Saul, so I'm really excited to watch that, to revisit Gus, because Gus Fring is a great character here. Throughout the whole show, he remains calm, collected. There are a couple moments of anger, and you just see that in his eyes. I mean, Giancarlo Esposito is incredible in this show. And that's the main heart and soul of this entire season, is that relationship between Bryan Cranston, Giancarlo Esposito. It works so well. It's freaking beautiful. The entire time, you see Walter kind of scared of the guy, and Jesse kind of becomes the main man. He becomes, you know, he becomes a bitch, is what it is. He becomes, you know, Gus's bitch, and he doesn't even realize it. That's the importance of Jesse's character here. However, I didn't like Jesse's character here. I didn't like that he became this person. I understand why it happened. I just don't like it. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where I'm like, I can't wait to get to Season 5 Jesse, which I guess might be even a little worse. I prefer Season 1 Jesse, personally. I'm excited to rewatch El Camino, because it's been a while. So we'll watch that after we're done with Breaking Bad 5, before we go on to Better Call Saul 1. But let's go through the season real quick. Start with Box Cutter. That's episode 1. Incredible. I mean, he comes in, he just shanks him with a box cutter to prove his loyalty to Walter, while at the same time going behind his back to tell Jesse, hey, I need you to be able to cook this by yourself. Because one day, Walter's going to have to leave. And by leave, we knew that he meant he was going to kill him at some point. The only reason he didn't kill him was because Jesse said no. And that kind of shows that Jesse's kind of the boss here. Which is interesting, because if you remember in Season 3, he says, I will not work with a junkie. I don't want to work with a junkie. But he does. Like, that's the big thing, is like the junkie kind of knows more than the cook. And it's really cool to see that relationship, particularly with Mike and Jesse as well, where, you know, Mike really is annoyed by Jesse. He does not like Jesse in the beginning of this season. He does not like him at all. But then he grows to kind of respect the kid. He's like, yeah, he showed some balls. He's doing his job well. I don't see why we have to get rid of him, you know? That kind of really interesting dynamic that I wasn't expecting the first time watching this, you know? And it develops in a really naturalistic way, and I really liked it a lot. Let's see. Oh, yeah, Hank. Hank sucks in this season. I don't really know why we kept him on this entire season. There's a couple moments that are really great. Like, whenever he gets close to finding Heisenberg, it's, like, really exciting. I'm on the edge of my seat, like, he's going to find him? And then he never does, until Season 5, of course. Spoilers. But he doesn't do anything. It's just really dry. It's him about, like, oh, I can't walk. And he's the rock collection. I mean, just... I feel like we could have done more with Dean Norris. Dean Norris is a phenomenal actor, and I just feel like he was kind of wasted for most of this season. There's a couple moments where he's like, you know, Walt Whitman, Walter White. Like, that's just a beautiful moment that I get, like, spine shivers every time that happens. Whenever it gets close, and I'm so excited to watch Season 5 again, and when he realizes it's him, it's like, when he's on the toilet or whatever, I'm just like, I'm so excited to get to there, so. But for Season 4, he doesn't do anything, and it's kind of meh. Bullet Points is one of my favorite episodes of all of Breaking Bad. It's just simply incredible. Like, just phenomenal work. The writing is brilliant. if I remember correctly, this one opens with a conversation between Walt and Skylar, and they're in the living room. They're rehearsing what they're going to say at the dinner with Hank and with Marie. And it's just this wonderful back and forth dialogue of, Skylar trying to be in charge and Walt trying to be in charge. And as we go through this entire episode, it just becomes better and better. The writing is just incredible. That's the one, I'm pretty sure, where Hank says, "Walter White?" Like, that back and forth, it's just incredible, and I think that's the episode where it happens. What a great episode. That's probably my favorite episode so far of Breaking Bad in my rewatch. So, look out for that episode. It's pretty freaking great. Crawl Space, the ending of Crawl Space has always been one of my favorite directorial moments in the entirety of the show. Just going back and forth from Walter just laughing on the ground to just Skylar just in horror. Like, I think that the person playing Skylar, I forget her name right now, she should do horror movies. I think she'd be great. The pure terror in her eyes was incredible. I mean, she just brilliant, knocked this entire episode out of the park. The whole episode's kind of meh, but by the end you're like, because the beginning is all about Skylar trying to figure out what's going to happen with her and Ted. And you don't really care about Ted because no one cares about Ted. But it makes sense because by the end, Walter's like, "Where's the money? Where is it?" And she's like, "I gave it to Ted." And he's like, "Ah!" Like, oh, it's fucking great. Love the end of that episode. And of course, Face Off. Brilliant special effects, brilliant performances. I do think that the beginning of the episode is kind of slow and weird and awkward. It's kind of chunky, you know what I mean? But then by the time we get to the end of it, and he's like, "It's over. I won." It's just so good. It's so good. And it's a great send-off. I have to talk about the Lily. Oh my goodness. Every time I watch this show, I forget that Walt is the one who poisons the kid. I forget every single time. Let me explain this. For those of you who did not catch this, because it doesn't explicitly say anything, but Jesse talks to Walt and he's like, "Yeah, it wasn't the ricin. There's some flower called Lily of the River," or something like that. I forget what it's actually called. And Walter's like, "Wow, that's crazy. What?" And then at the end of the episode, the camera pans over. You know it's Walter's house because you can see the pool, you can see the back porch, and it pans over and it zooms in on the flowers. And you know it's the lily, and you're just like, Walter did it on purpose so that Jesse would think that Gus was the bad guy, so that he could get Jesse's permission to kill Gus. Now, let me tell you why that's so important. This gets me excited. Why this is important, you ask? Because Gus was doing the same thing to Jesse. This was not a war between who could kill the other first. It's who could get Jesse's permission first, right? Gus is trying to convince Jesse Walt is not an asset. Walt can die. If he dies, everything's going to be easier. Jesse's like, no. Because that's not how you get to Jesse. You get to Jesse through action. Walt had to poison the kid for Jesse to agree to actually commit to killing Gus. Because Walter couldn't even convince Jesse. He tried, and he's like, "I'm going to kill him," and then he doesn't. He doesn't. Incredible. The only thing that gets him to do it is Walt poisoning the kid, poisoning him not to the death, but just to the point where Jesse would think it's Gus and allow him to further and kill Gus. I mean, incredible. Incredible writing, incredible directing. One of my favorite, mind-blowing parts of the entire show. I mean, just excellent. I need more of that. Ugh. But overall, the beginning of the season's kind of slow. It kind of takes some time to get places. But when it gets places, man, is it good. I'm going to give Breaking Bad Season 4 an A-. Have you guys seen, Breaking Bad Season 4? Let me know in the comments below what you guys thought about it. Great season, in my opinion. I love it so much. All of Breaking Bad is great. I'm excited to talk about Season 5. I'm going to start it next week, so look forward to that video soon. And please consider subscribing so you can find your next movie at Robert's Reviews.